Unless you're willing to question what you're being told, then you're easily manipulated because you just believe and accept whatever you're told. So how do you know you're not being manipulated? Right. But actually, this process is so simple and so clear, and it's
Yeah,
so legal. It's completely legal. In fact, to
yeah.
pay tax is illegal because then you're complicit in terrorism, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty. So said Thomas Jefferson. Go to bit.ly/lawful tax protest or bit.ly/make war history and find out why it is a criminal offence to pay central government or local government taxes in the UK. And let's make war history. If you are doing this, like most of the working population in the UK, then you are committing a criminal offence. I'm going to be talking to somebody, a small business owner, who has taken action to ensure that he doesn't commit this criminal offence. And what's that criminal offence? Paying tax. Hi, everybody, it's Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. And I'm joined by Marco. Marco owns a small business owner. We're going to find out a bit more about how come and why paying tax is a criminal offence and how come he's not paying it because he's a man of honour. But before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please come and support me on censorship-resistant platforms like Twitter, I should be saying X, ODYSEE, and Rumble. Hey, Marco, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you. You and I have met a few times on the fortnightly Probity Co calls on Monday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And you've been using the probity process to not pay tax because paying tax is a criminal offence. Now, for people who are new to this idea, do you want to explain how this works and why it's a criminal offence and what you've been doing and what's been happening?
Well, it all started really when I bumped into a video that I was watching with Chris Coverdale, where he was interviewing and he was talking about withholding taxes and setting up a trust. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. So I went onto his website and I started to watch some of his videos and looking into all the crimes that have been committed through war. And that's when I realized that I needed to do something especially now that we've got two wars going on in Ukraine and in Gaza. I didn't want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I would take action and just pick up the process of Chris Coverdale. Initially, I started with PayYE, with the employees.
Right. Now, hold on, Marco, hold on 1 second, please. So, Marco, I've had Chris Coverdale on my channel a few times. And for people who don't know, he's an anti-war campaigner. And he's developed a process, which people can find on probityco.com and also, or go to bit.ly/make war history or bit.ly/lawful tax protest. Any of those links will take you to probityco.com. And then you follow the steps that are outlined there. So you're a small business owner.
I'm a small business owner, yeah, and I was hit very hard during COVID. Really, not so much when the lockdowns ended and when we went back. It was more like the aftermath of COVID, particularly in one salon. A lot of my staff decided to change their lifestyles. And
why? What happened?
Well, a lot of them left. You know, two of them went to Brighton. They wanted to be near the coast. Two of them got pregnant, and one of them didn't come back. One of them only came back one day. One of them went back to Spain. One of them wanted more time off, so she went into being a stewardess. So I had quite a major walkout, but over a period of 6 months. And suddenly I was in the salon practically on my own with very young girls working there.
Right.
So it hit me hard, and I thought this is a direct consequence of COVID, because it's sort of changed people's views on life and their life. They've re-examined, reassessed their lives, which
Right.
is nothing wrong with that, because I mean I've done that as well. But other than that, I think COVID for me, being a salon in a town centre, it affected the town because people are not traveling as much. They're not coming into town, and a lot of shops are closing down. So I didn't want that to happen to me.
Right. Okay. So then, there are people who are using the probity code process individually, to not pay their council tax, to not pay their capital gains tax. But how did you do it actually, before we get to that, because I said in the beginning that it's a criminal offense to pay tax. Do you want to take
Yes.
us through that? What is the basis in which I said that, which you and I both agree with?
It's to do with the Terrorism Act, and they're not complying with the international law. And on the website, it explains everything. And once it's quite clear that you can be prosecuted for paying tax if you knowingly know that you are contributing to genocide and war. So that kind of got me thinking, well, if that's the case, then I need to really know where our money is going, because I feel like a lot of people don't know. They pay their taxes and they're done with it. And, I'm one of those. I just paid it, as a good citizen, always did my bit. Well, I've got my tax and I'll just pay it. And that was a done thing. I never questioned anything. However, once I started looking into this process, I discovered it's a can of worms, really, because I thought, well, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be part of that system where I am contributing to something that I haven't agreed to. And, I feel like we're all connected in some way or another. And I have to do my bit. And if my bit is withholding tax, so that it can get the government to comply or at least answer my questions, then I have to lose the fear and just do it. And so
Yeah.
that's what I decided to do.
Yes, and just to add a little bit to what you said, so there's the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act. These are domestic
That's
statutes. So this isn't international legislation. They've taken international conventions, made it parliamentary statutory law. So it's
yes,
legislation in the UK, and it says that if you give any money to any organization, directly or indirectly, that facilitates genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, or terrorism, then
yes,
you're committing a criminal offense. And if anybody asks you for that money, some of which goes towards those activities, they're committing a criminal offense. And the statutes define what is meant by war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and acts of terrorism. And the British government's part in supporting the conflict in Ukraine, in supporting the conflict in Israel, in dropping bombs on people in Yemen are violations of those statutes. So this isn't an ethical or moral dilemma. This is a
yes,
matter of legislation. By
yeah,
paying money, whether it's council tax or your BBC license fee or capital gains tax, or if you're a farmer, inheritance tax, all of that money gets collected, put into a big fund, a consolidated fund,
that's correct.
and then it's dispersed, and some of it is used by the security services, some of it is used by the military to carry out war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and terrorism. And if you go to the
Yes.
Probity Code website, it's all laid out clear, and it's a very, very simple process. So talk us through the process. What did you actually do? Because it's one thing for me as an individual doing it, but you're a business owner. You pay
So
more.
the
Yeah,
first thing I did when I watched that video actually, I thought, I really need to talk to Chris. So the first thing I did was call him. I actually picked up the phone and called him,
yeah,
and he answered the phone, and we had a chat. And this was before I did anything. And I asked him, but Chris, does this actually work? And he said, well, Marco, I've been doing this for 7 years with council tax. So that got me thinking, and I thought, well, if he's been doing it for 7 years, there must be something in it. So that's when I decided, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. What have I got to lose?
mm,
You know. So I think most people are in a state of fear when they see those brown envelopes come in
yeah,
from HMRC. They panic. Initially you do, you send them, but then once you understand the system, that all these letters that are coming through are actually all automated, and occasionally you do get the odd response from certain individuals, but
Yeah.
most of the time those letters are unsigned and they are automated. I thought, I have to give this a go, and so I did. And so I started with PayYE. I told my employees, I told them, look, this is what I'm going to be doing. If you have any objection to it, and they're not aware of the legislations that paying tax could be a criminal offence. Their main concern is, well, Marco, if would we get arrested? And I said, well, no, I would never do that to you. I would never put you in, jeopardize put you in that situation. They would come after me. So I decided to do PayYE, and then corporation tax, and then VAT. And the process is really quite simple. You go onto Probity, and there's a section for companies. You can use that. And there's a lot of letters there that you can use, that you write to them. And I've had a few responses, but honestly, they avoid the question, the main questions. They're not answering my questions that I've asked, because I'm quite happy to pay the tax. I've set it aside. It's not for financial gain. It's pure for, it's an ethical reason why I've done this.
Okay. Well, yes, clearly, right. Now, the process is for individuals or for companies. You go to the Probity Co. website, you download a trust form. Now, my experience, people don't understand what trust forms are. It means like, they think, oh, I got to go meet with some high-powered lawyers and everything, and they create reams of documents, and then I have to have some sort of special account. Essentially, it's a letter that you can download off the website. It's very easy to fill in, and trust law is older than the Magna Carta. So it's that embedded within our legal system. And it's the way how the elites, the oligarchs, whoever they might be, the uber rich, they use this to not pay tax. And what Chris Coverdale have done in the team at Probity is that Probity Co, they've democratized this process and decentralized it. A bit like Bitcoin, really, right? Which is what you think about it. Anybody can have a trust. So you download the documents. There's a few sections to fill in. You see, like, I owe this much. And essentially what the trust is saying is, HMRC, you can have the money provided you can demonstrate compliance with the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act and a few other conditions that fall out of that, like the prosecution of people who violated those acts, like Tony Blair, by instituting war. Now, you don't send HMRC any money. No money goes to them, because they'll only use it towards genocide and crimes against humanity. So you download the document, fill it in, and you send a copy of that document, which has been written and perhaps signed by a solicitor or a notary. You send them a copy, and there's a deadline that by such and such a date, you have to demonstrate that compliance with these statutes, and then you can have the money.
Did you have yours signed by a solicitor or notary then?
I think I did, yes.
Did you? Okay.
Yes. But
I didn't.
It can be done by two witnesses. It can be done by two witnesses. They'll do it.
Yeah, I did that.
Actually, no, I did it with a witness. I didn't do it with a solicitor.
Oh, okay.
Later. No, I did it with a witness. So you don't even need a solicitor, right? And then I didn't send them any money, and then they didn't demonstrate compliance, and then the money goes to the secondary beneficiary. Now, once the trust has been created and sent, HMRC, money's no longer yours, Marco. It's no longer mine.
No, absolutely. No,
I'd say it's gone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not your money. It's no one's money.
Well, it's the beneficiary, the primary beneficiary being HMRC, provided they can demonstrate that they're acting legally, which I think is what's really great about this process, because it's not like we're trying.
It's so simple.
Well, it's simple, but we're not trying to weasel our way out of paying tax and everything. No, I want to make sure that you, HMRC, are complying with statute.
Yeah.
And that I'm complying with statute.
Correct.
Okay.
So the responses I get from HMRC is like...
Sorry, before we get to that. So you have employees that pay tax.
Correct.
You would take the tax out of source and then send it to HMRC. So you stopped doing that. What did you do with the money?
I put it aside. I pay it into I take it out of the bank
Yep.
because I've it's been known that HMRC can dip into your account and take money out.
Right.
So I was thinking, well, if I keep all this money in the banks could block me or could do something, or HMRC, because they've got a lot of power. So I thought, well, I need to create another account that is, completely independent. And I found a gold that deals with heavy metals, and so I decided that all the money and all the taxes that are owed to HMRC would be paid into that. So every time I get a bill from my accountant and said, "Oh, you owe £3,000 for your employees," I pay that into that account. So I don't. So it's put away straight away. It's either gold or silver, and I can easily access that, and I can put it back into my business account if I need to pay something. So it's all there. So that's what I do. I do that, and it's all online, and yeah, it's very easy, very easy.
Your employees are happy with this process? They're fine with it?
Yes. Well, I have two salons, and one salon they're fine with it. The other salon they're all mothers, okay,
Right.
and they're all part-time, and they were not so keen on it. They were not keen on me withholding. And also I thought about it, and I thought, well, the fact is it's their money. It's not my money, it's their money, and I shouldn't be acting like HMRC by just doing it and saying, right, I'm going to pay this money into trust because I don't agree with paying, without them having a say, because ultimately it's their money that I'm withholding, and they're trusting me to pay it to HMRC. And if I just withhold the money without consulting with them, I'd be acting like HMRC. So I thought, well, I need to talk to them, and most of them are scared, and I think it's coming from their partners. This is in one salon because they're all a little bit older and they're all mothers. So on one salon, I started withholding the PAYE, but then once I've got the feeling that most of them were not really on board, I decided to pay it, which is what I did. I paid it, but I've retained the VAT because that's got nothing to do with them.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's
So
one salon. Salon, I retain the VAT, but I pay the PAYE simply because I just don't want, they're not on board, so they don't understand it. I have spoken to Chris, and I've asked him if he would come down and, have maybe a staff meeting with them in the new year, so that he could explain to them what it is that we're doing. So we're going to do that. But in the other salon, they're all up for it. And so, yeah, they can't wait to get their money.
Okay. So what happens with the money after a certain time?
So so there's certain conditions that the trust needs to be, that HMRC needs to adhere to. And that is that they need to prove by the end of the financial year. In my case, it's the end of March. And if by then they haven't responded with or showed me proof that they're not going to use this money for genocide and criminal warfare, I will then distribute the amounts to all my employees. That's what I'll do. And I've asked them to write a letter to me. There's actually a letter on the probity. It's really good, that probity website. There's a letter on there that is to the employer. So I've printed loads of them off because I've got a few employees, and I said, right, you've all got to write to me and sign to me before you get the money. So that then I'll have the evidence that they don't agree with paying tax. Right. So that's a good thing as well. So and that covers all angles, because then if HMRC do come to me and say, well, you've used the money for your own personal gain or whatever, well, I say, well, no, here are the letters from the employees. They don't want to do it either.
Yes. Well, I can definitely see the advantage of the employees, right? Because, instead of paying it is 20-30%, depending upon their income of tax, they get that in their pockets. And you've saved it up for them, so it's like a bonus at the end of the year.
Yeah, they're loving it. They can't wait.
Okay.
They can't wait.
And you said also you're doing this with the VAT, which is the sales tax. You're also doing it with the corporation tax. So that's all being withheld. Now, the corporation tax do you share that out with the employees as well?
No, so the corporation tax, I will probably just leave it in the company.
Right.
Maybe give some of it to a charity, that is going to help people for the what's going on now, and I'm quite happy to donate certain a bit of money to this, to a peace organization, but not one of these charities that I don't know nothing about. It has to be, an organization that is going to put the money to good use to maintain peace, really, because we want peace.
Yes.
So so I'll do that. The pay-why I'll give to the employees. The VAT is a little bit trickier because the VAT comes from the clients. And as you know, I did ask this question. So we are in the process of trying to find a solution, because if HMRC can't prove that this money is not being used for criminal warfare, then I have to give it to the second beneficiary, and the second beneficiaries are the clients. So my question was, how do I give it back to the clients when they come in and out of the salon, and how do I give it back to them? So we're in the process now of deciding how that's going to be administered.
Right, okay. And that's an important point there. In the trust, the primary beneficiary is HMRC. They can have the funds provided they demonstrate compliance with the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act.
Correct.
By a certain time, by the end of the financial year. And then the secondary beneficiary gets the funds if the primary beneficiary doesn't meet the conditions. And the secondary beneficiary can be yourself, it can be your employees, it can be your customers, it can be a charity. It's really up to you as the creator of the trust to designate who the secondary beneficiary is going to be.
So do you think I have the power to do what I want with that money then? Because apparently, talking to, on our Zooms, I would have to make the effort of actually trying to give that VAT back to the customers.
Yeah,
I'm trying to work out how I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I think the VAT would need to go back to them because they're the ones that paid it. And how you would do that, I can see how that's a challenge. I don't have any solutions for you, Marco. Sorry. No. Actually, I thought of something for the future, that every time someone gets a haircut, you give them a voucher that gives them 20% off their next haircut.
Yeah.
Because the VAT is 20%. So then they have to then come in. And then they come in, they get the 20% off the next haircut, but you have to give them another voucher because they had to pay VAT on that second haircut.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe I could start doing that.
Yeah. That would be it. And then you're getting repeat business because, well, I'm getting 20% off this guy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Now, how long have you been doing this? When did you start doing it?
Well, I've been in very active.
Not the hair salon business.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah. With probability, it's in the last year. In the last year. I tried various other things with HMRC before this. I tried to not pay tax. I tried other methods of because I was struggling, and I thought, well, I need to do something here, but none of it seemed to. It worked and it didn't work, but. I thought I need something a little bit more, solid, and that to me looks solid. And once I spoke to Chris, and he said he'd been doing it for 7 years, I thought, okay, that sounds very promising. And since I've been doing it, I've had one letter where HMRC have come to one of my salons early in the morning when I'm not there, and they've posted a letter into the door, try and scare me, really, saying that they would, that I needed to pay this money or else, whatever.
Marco, sorry, can you give us an idea of how much you owe? Like, not the exact figure.
Oh, it's within the hundreds. It's over 100.
Over 100K or £100?
Over 100K.
Over 100K. Okay, over 100,000.
Yeah, it's over 100K. Oh, yes, it's getting attention.
Okay, so then how do you know they hand delivered it?
Because they put it on the envelope. Right. They came with the envelope and they write handwritten, delivered by hand. Okay. And they do that, so you have to respond. You see, because So I'd be lying if I wasn't a little bit worried. I thought, oh, okay, what do I do now? So this is where probability is really good, because you get the support with people like you bounce off ideas, and so every second week. So I got help from from the team, really, from Hugh and Matheson. Is it Matheson? Yeah, Susie, and we came up with a response.
So what did
And
this letter say?
it said, it basically said that if I don't pay, they would charge me interest, and then they would start the process of shutting me down. Basically come in and shutting me down
As a business, okay.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I can't have that.
Yeah. What was the advice you were given by Chris?
To respond. You see, you never ever tell them that you don't want to pay. You're happy to pay, and so that's what we did. We told them we're happy to pay on conditions, and we sent them. Again, I sent them a copy of the trust, and they're gone. I haven't heard anything from them. Gone.
How long ago was this?
This is early on in the year. This was like February.
You haven't heard anything since February?
No, from HMRC regarding that. No, I haven't heard anything. HMRC. Recently, I've had letters, demanding VAT, saying that I shouldn't be withholding VAT because it's not my money, and that it's your customers, and you're collecting on part of the customers, and you have you should be paying that to us. So, because I went through the first initial letter that I got in February, I kind of knew how to answer that one as well, and it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, okay, you do have a point, but can you please prove that if I do pay this money over to you, that I'm not breaking the law according to the acts that we mentioned? And I'm still waiting for a response.
Yes.
So
that's actually an important point. So, according to these statutes, the International Terrorism Act and the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act, it's a criminal offence for HMRC to ask for any funds where they have reasonable cause to believe that some of those funds will be used for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and acts of terrorism. It's also a criminal offence for Marco or myself as taxpayers to pay these funds to HMRC if we have reasonable cause to believe that some of that money will be used for war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and terrorism. So both,
exactly.
So I'm committing a criminal offence if I pay HMRC, and HMRC committing a criminal offence if they ask me for the money. And you make a really important point that in your letter to them, you said, look, I want to pay. I want to act consistent with statute. I want to make sure I'm not breaking the law. I want to make sure you're not breaking the law. But this is what the law says. Now give me some exemptions. Show me the
exemptions. But they can't.
Yes.
They can't. They're snookered.
They really are. Which is why tax protest is so effective, right?
Yeah, definitely. People complain about paying tax and how much tax they're paying, but they really need to become conscious of their surroundings and what's actually going on. Yeah. And once you become conscious of what's going on and where your energy, because it's your energy that you give it away.
Yes.
And they're feeding off our energy. So you realize that, and you don't want to be part of that, because it goes a lot deeper than. I couldn't care less about the money, to be honest. It's not nothing to do with that. To me, it's very much an ethical thing. I cannot stand the fact that I'm being complicit by paying tax and knowingly that this money is going to be used to kill women and children somewhere far away, which I've got no beef with. These people have done nothing to me. So it's their war. They should sort it out, and we should be excluded from it. If they want to do that, that's up to them. But it's not down to the population. We should have a say, really, I think.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I think, like Chris says, war is the worst thing any government can do.
We've had enough. I've got 2 children, and we want to see a better world, and it's coming. I believe it's coming. It's coming, and we have to resist. We have to lose the fear, and know that these are just corporations. These are all corporations, and don't be scared of individuals, people, because they're only people. Yeah. They're not going to. Somebody said to me, "You know what, Marco? The hardest thing you ever did as as a living being was get up when you were a baby, was get up from crawling and walking. That was the hardest thing you ever did. And I thought about that, and I thought, wow, that's a good analogy. I thought, so this is easy. This is just easy.
That's very, very good, Marco. It's very good. And they rely on us being afraid. But actually, this process is so simple and so clear, and it's so legal. It's completely legal. In fact, to pay tax is illegal because then you're complicit in terrorism, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Now, just to address the issue of genocide and those other aspects, the statutes define what's meant by genocide and what's meant by crimes against humanity and war crimes and terrorism. It doesn't matter what you and I think. The statutes make it clear that what Britain is doing with Yemen, with Israel, with Ukraine is a violation of those statutes. So we're just holding our government to account. Now, people may support the war or one of the other wars or be indifferent to the war, but you may oppose net zero. You may oppose the farmers being squeezed. You may oppose the money being given to Zelensky so he can buy more flash cars versus keeping granny warm. So
that's right.
You may not have enough money to get by the way the government are printing fiat and
currency,
misallocating it everywhere. Printing pounds, misallocating it everywhere. That you just need to keep the money to make ends meet.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and then my position because I've been doing this myself with HMRC with some capital gains tax, is if it gets too hairy, then I can always pay up because I've got the money.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that.
But Marco, that was when I went in. But what I've seen happen with me is, and we just had lots and lots of letters back and forth, and I kept saying, look, I'm willing. In every letter I wrote, I'm willing to pay, I'm willing to pay, I'm willing to pay. Just prove to me that I'm not breaking the law and you're not breaking the law. Give me an exemption in statute. They gave me none. They didn't answer the question. They dodged around it. They didn't once.
Have they gone quiet?
Well, I'll tell you in a second. They didn't once reference the Terrorism Act. They didn't once reference the International Criminal Court Act in any of their letters to me. They said things like, we have a duty to collect taxes that are lawfully due. And I replied, great, I want to pay taxes that are lawfully payable. But look at these statutes. It says I'm breaking the law and you're breaking the law by asking me.
Yeah.
So then I got fed up with the letters. I submitted an affidavit, a sworn declaration of truth, that I have submitted this trust, paid by trust. I have had all this correspondence. I've asked them for exemptions for these statutes. Not once have they given me an exemption to these statutes. This matter is now settled. That's it. It's over. That's in my deck. And that I got witnessed by a solicitor.
Okay.
But you can also do it with 2 additional witnesses if I were to do it again, which I intend to do with other taxes. Then, then I said to them, you've got 14 days to rebut that affidavit.
And they haven't done it.
Well, they wrote slightly after 14 days, but I was fine. I'll let it slide, right? They didn't rebut the points I made about the statutes.
So did they respond to your letter then?
They responded. They said, look, you have to pay taxes that are due. But they didn't rebut that the International Criminal Court Act applies. They didn't rebut that the Terrorism Act applies. They just ignored it. And an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in law. It's fact.
So what can they do now then, if they keep going on about saying that you have to?
Well, then I sent them a notice of default. I said, look, you haven't rebutted my affidavit. You've got 7 days. I'll give you one more chance to rebut my affidavit. And I'm saying that that there is no exemption for me or from HMRC from these statutes. I haven't heard from them. Now, what they're not going to do, is they're not going to put it in writing. You're right. These statutes do apply. There's no exemptions. Bye-bye. Because that's court standard evidence for them. They don't have a leg to stand on, and they're not going to admit it. Because that would be a right royal mess.
Yeah.
Right? So now what they did do with me, I mean, did you have any dealings with debt enforcement agents?
Oh yeah. But just letters. I deal with those. They're really easy to deal with. I was giving them all notice, and then they go away. They give the debt back. Every time I deal with, I'm quite used. Enforcement agents. It's easy. So now I don't even bother giving them.
What did they say? for people who don't
Oh,
know.
it's
They're
time to
saying, what
pay
did you
your
say?
HMRC tax. It's time to pay your HMRC tax. We're willing to work with you. We can set up a payment plan, all this nonsense. And I just, usually I used to give them 3 notices.
Mhm.
Now I don't even bother with that. I just give them 1 letter. I say, this is in dispute. The money's been paid into a discretionary trust. Please show me, I think it's something that shows me about their debt.
Yep.
And then I just
An
say,
assignment deed that the
that's
debt has
it.
been
Yeah, I
assigned to
said,
them.
please show me a deed of assignment, and otherwise, this matter. I'm still waiting on a response from HMRC, and then they go away. They write back to say, yeah, we've dropped your case. We've handed the case back to HMRC. So that's what they do.
Well,
They're really easy to deal
they
with.
are very easy, and that's the whole thing. The government and these agencies, they rely on us being afraid of not knowing our rights. And
Yeah,
one of the ways that I look at it is, no matter how much discomfort I have to go through, that's nothing compared to the discomfort that people in the Donbass or in Kiev or in Gaza or in Tel Aviv or in Yemen have to go through. Mine is a
yeah. It
first
breaks my
world
heart.
problem.
It upsets me very much.
Yeah. So what I've written to them and I've said, do you have a legally compliant, properly executed court order? Please send it to
Yeah,
me,
that's yeah,
right? If you don't, go away. And they
yeah,
don't, because HMRC haven't taken me to court. Because if they took you or me to court, what they would be asking the court to do is asking us to act in defiance of parliamentary statutes. And I would say, wait a minute, Your Honor, look at these 2 statutes. It's
yeah, yeah.
illegal. And look at the Supreme Court ruling that says that the UK government's military activities and quasi-military activities are not exempt, even when approved by Parliament. There you go, Your Honor. You're going to set precedent by violating statutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely worth it.
I think I don't. How do you see the future? I think come March, we'll still be in the same position, and I think they'll just ignore what we send them. But I can't wait to send that last letter telling them I'm going to pay all the money to the second beneficiary.
Yeah. Well, yes, I only gave them 2 months notice in my trust deed. I said
Oh,
I
did you?
sent it to him in November 2023. I said you've got until January 31st to demonstrate.
Okay.
Well,
No, I'm giving them a whole year.
oh,
I'm giving
you're a
them.
kinder man than I, Marco.
I'm a kind of man, aren't I?
But I think for the next
let them
lot,
have a go.
next lot, 2 months, you're done. You haven't done
Yeah,
it, go away.
yeah, yeah,
And then what I would do next time is I would do the trust deed, and then I would
yeah.
move to the affidavit much quicker. I wouldn't bother
Okay.
with these letters because I've learned a lot doing this process. And I would just move to the affidavit.
Affidavit. I'm going.
And
Yeah,
then,
I've got your affidavit. I'm going to use it.
and then the notice of default. And then that's it. Job done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, more people need to come on board. You know, people complain all the time that they pay too much tax, don't they?
Take too much. And the cost of living, things are so much more expensive.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
going to get more expensive, especially when they reduce farming and the farmland gets bought up by BlackRock, and the BlackRock
Yeah.
wants to feed us mealworms.
Most people aren't aware what's going on.
No.
They're unconscious. They're not conscious of what's going on. Although there's been a few rallies now, the demonstrations and I've been talking to a few people that attended, and they said that a lot more people of a certain class were demonstrating. You know, the likes of Jeremy Clarkson, and
Yes.
you know, they were demonstrating. So it's about time that people woke up and
Absolutely.
realized what is actually going on. You know, they're putting this in our face, and they're not hiding. They've exposed themselves. They're not hiding. You know, they're telling us. But it seems to me that the majority of people, the normies, they're not really. It's not switching on in there. It's not clicking.
People don't know. Well, one of the things that I say is that unless people are willing to question, unless you're willing to question what you're being told, then you're easily manipulated because you just believe and accept whatever you're told.
Yeah.
So how do you know you're not being manipulated? You
But
won't,
also, I think
unless you're
people
willing
just
to
want an
question.
easy life, don't they? They just
Well,
want an
I
easy
don't think
life.
people know the alternatives. Like if I'd have known that it was so darn easy, It was
I'd have
so
done this years ago.
yeah, I would have done it years ago. And also ethical.
Yeah,
Ethical. I don't want money being spent on murdering people. I want money
yeah,
being spent on keeping granny warm. I don't
yeah.
want money being spent on the
The
assisted.
homeless.
Yeah, I want money being spent on the homeless. I don't want money being spent on the assisted suicide bill. No. I want money
No,
being spent on taking care of people, on taking care of
exactly,
our own. I don't want money being spent on open borders. I want money being spent on investing in this country and nourishing and nurturing our own. I don't want money being
exactly.
spent on CBDCs.
No,
No, no,
no,
no, absolutely. Or net zero. No.
no,
Okay.
exactly.
So Marco, are you doing this with any other, like your BBC license fee, council tax, any
Oh,
other?
the BBC. No, I just come off that, and I just told them, look, I don't have a, I don't, I just stopped paying it. I don't pay anything anymore. The only thing I'm paying is my mortgage, which quite frankly, I want to stop paying that as well. But I don't, I don't pay for anything. I stopped, and I haven't paid council tax for 2 years.
But what
I
happened
haven't
with council
paid.
tax? Have you done the same thing?
No, that you see, I've kept Chris Coverdale's process in my back pocket as a backup in
Right.
case the first process that I used was not going to work. So with the other, because I only discovered Chris afterwards. Before I did gas, electric, water, TV license. I did all of that, and I questioned them basically, again saying that I'm happy to pay, but where's the contract? Can you please prove that you were not right into the legal fiction and that you were right into the man, the living man, Marco? And they didn't respond to any of my notices. So what I did is, over the period that I was giving all these companies notice over 3 months, I carried on paying them £5 a month until I finished all my notices. Once I finished all my notices, I stopped the direct debit, and any letters that come in now from the gas or the electric or the council tax, I just send it back. I just send it all back, and I've been doing that 3 years now. I haven't
And
paid a water.
you haven't paid, and they haven't cut you off the gas and electric and the water.
No, they can't. They can't cut you off. It's your right as a living man to have the bare necessity. How can they cut water off?
Okay, but they can cut gas and electricity off, can't they?
Yeah, but they gotta dig up the road. So, and again, I've never said I didn't want to pay. Okay, I'm not saying I don't want to pay. I'm happy to pay, but prove to me that there is a contract. Where's my obligation, and that you are writing to the living man and not the legal fiction.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I've come across these arguments. They boggle my mind. I'm not disputing them. It's a whole other
It's a whole,
rabbit hole.
there's the truth movement. I think there is one movement. I won't mention the name, but there is one movement that doesn't use the legal fiction. They think it's a load of nonsense. So they use legislation against them, especially council tax. But unfortunately, I only found that out later on. I think it's peacekeepers that do
Yes.
that.
Well,
I went with because I hadn't come across peacekeepers. I was all new to this, so I went with another group, and I just did the notices. And with council tax, I got a summons. But again, a summons is an invitation to court. So an invitation is, they're not going to come here and drag me out of my house. So I didn't go. I responded. They passed the debt on. They passed the debt on to enforcement agents, and the enforcement agents send you scary letters, all in red, a bit like HMRC, all in red, saying you've got to pay, blah blah. I send them notice, and then I had them turn up. I had the bailiffs turn up, and they try to contract with you. The first thing they ask you, are you Mr. Marco? And I said, no, I'm not, because I'm not that, because they want you to create joinder with you. So I said, no, I'm not. They looked at he was taking notes on my car to clamp my car, take it away. But I'll put all my cars into trust. So he couldn't touch that because my name is nowhere. So he had to leave. I asked him 3 times to leave. He had to leave. And as he left, I then invoiced them for £6,000. And I haven't heard anything since then. And that was, I think, March.
That's
gone
amazing.
away.
That's amazing. Now, I just got to say, the process that you're talking about with the utility companies and that you've used for the council tax, it's not the probity process. There's all kinds of the ways that we have of asserting our lawful rights. And
Yes.
I'm not denigrating those processes at all. I'm just not familiar with them. And Peacekeepers, Hugh is one of the team at Peacekeepers. He's part of the probity process. I'll have the link to Peacekeepers, peacekeepers.org.uk. If you want to go to their website, they offer a free course where you can learn about.
Yeah, it's very good. I've signed up to that. Yeah,
I've signed up to it as well, but I haven't started it. Right?
Have you not?
No, I haven't started the course. I need a study buddy or something, right?
I know it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot, but it's good.
It's like I need deadlines. I need a teacher to threaten me or something. Right? All right. Now, so there's that process, but the probity process certainly works with council tax.
Yeah.
It may work with utility companies because you pay the utility companies VAT, and they take some of the money that they receive from people and then they give it to HMRC because they have to pay tax. So then indirectly, it's a little bit like you give me money and then I go and give that money to some organization that's funding terrorism. You're breaking the law, Marco.
Yeah.
You give money to an energy company and you know they're giving some of that money is going to go to funding terrorism.
Yeah.
Then you're breaking the law and say, look, you're breaking the law by asking me for this money.
Exactly.
So that approach could work.
Yeah. Yeah. It could work.
The probity approach just relies on statute.
I think, probity. I would use it. I would use it for council tax. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I would definitely use it for council tax. Although I have heard that they just ignore it. But you can just do the same to them. You can just ignore them.
Yeah, and then we'll move to an affidavit.
Yeah.
Deed of trust. And then the fact that, Chris has told me as well several times on interviews that he hasn't paid his council tax for 7 years. They send him a new bill.
Yeah.
He sends them the deed of trust. They zero his account. And then the following year, they send him a new bill. And it doesn't build up. It's for that new year. It doesn't accumulate.
And they zero it out.
They zero it. They zero it.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to do that. They zero it out.
They zero it out. It's done. I'm not going to give you any money because you're going to use it for terrorism and genocide. I don't want my money going for that. Look, you're breaking the law. And then also I know somebody, I don't know this person, but through probity, who's written to the local authorities or the council and asked them, what would you do if you were to learn that an organization within your area was providing funds that were being used to facilitate genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and terrorism? This local authority said, well, we will inform the police and we would not be a party to that.
Oh, okay.
So then one possibility, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to write to my local authority and get a statement from them like that, which is, of course, no, we're not going to do that. I then have that letter, which is proof, and then goes the deed of trust. Okay. Then I send them the trust document.
I want you to share that. Share that when you do that.
Well, Marco, thank you so much. What I think is really, really outstanding about what you're doing is doing it as a small businessman. Because my capital gains tax bill isn't large. Yours is much, much larger. And therefore, potentially you're at much greater risk because they've got more to lose. But the fact that you're doing it this way, out of your commitment to a world where human beings honor human beings and a world where our government spends money on promoting peace versus pushing for nuclear war and the mass slaughter of people. Well, I want a world where we promote peace.
Yeah,
Marco,
definitely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next fortnightly call. I think that we had a call this Monday. I think the next one is December the 9th, which is the second Monday in December, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Go to the Probity Co website, probityco.com. You sign up. It's free to sign up. They send you the Zoom link. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to use your real name. You don't have to ask any questions. You can just listen. And slowly that way, get more familiar with this process. All right, Mark, please share and spread this video. I'd really love this to get to some farmers so that they know that they can use this
farmers.
process.
How do we get it out to farmers?
Well, people got to share and spread the word. If you're a farmer, please contact me. Best way is via Twitter, CryptoRichYT. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.